Rion had lived on the edge of nowhere for too long. His outpost was nothing more than a cluster of metal huts on a barren mining moon, surrounded by dust and endless rock. Every day was the same wake-up, check the oxygen levels, search for salvage from old battle wrecks, and hope that no one came looking for trouble. It was lonely, but he had learned to live with it. That morning started like any other. Rion walked across the jagged ground with his scanner, hoping to find metal worth trading. The sky was a dull gray, filled with the permanent haze of the moons. Thin atmosphere. He thought about going back to his shelter early, maybe fixing the water filters, when his scanner suddenly beeped wildly. It wasn't reading old scrap. This was different. He looked up just in time to see a burning streak cut across the sky. At first, he thought it was a meteor, but it moved smoothly, like something controlled. He squinted, shielding his eyes. As it grew larger, a ship, no, too small, an escape pod. It slammed into the ground about a kilometer away with a loud crash. That shook the rocks beneath his feet. A cloud of dust rose high. And for a moment, silence returned. Rion hesitated. Crash like that usually meant trouble. Whoever was inside could be dangerous or worse. Whatever caused them to crash could still be out there. But salvage was salvage, and he had learned long ago that hesitating too long meant losing out. He grabbed his old rifle, not much more than a modified mining tool, and started toward the crash site. The crater was deep and smoking when he arrived. In the center sat a small escape pod, its black metal scorched and dented. Strange symbols glowed faintly on its surface, letters of a language he didn't know. It was definitely alien. He crept closer, rifle ready. The hatch of the pod hissed. As it opened, Rion froze. A figure climbed out, taller than him, wearing sleek combat armor. The armor was unlike anything he had seen before, dark silver with glowing blue lines running across it like veins. The helmet hid the face completely, reflecting the dim light. The figure moved slowly, like they were in pain. But even then, there was a grace to their movements that unsettled him. The armored figure noticed him almost immediately. They stopped, standing perfectly still, staring at him through the faceless visor. Rion raised his rifle, not out of anger, but because that was instinct out here. "Don't move," he said firmly. The figure tilted their head slightly, as if studying him. No answer, no sound. They didn't reach for a weapon, though. Instead, the figure raised their hands slowly in what looked like a peaceful gesture. Rion's grip on his rifle loosened a little. He was used to hostile scavengers or pirates crashing near his moon. This one didn't seem like them, but the silence was unnerving. "You speak," he called out. Still no answer. The alien, he was sure now that it wasn't human, stumbled slightly, catching themselves against the pod. They were injured. That much was clear. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Rion didn't know what to do. He couldn't just leave them here, but bringing them back to his outpost felt risky. Finally, he sighed. "Fine, you need help, come with me. But try anything, and I won't hesitate." He gestured for them to follow. The armored figure hesitated. Then, not at once. The walk back to the outpost was tense. Rion kept glancing over his shoulder, rifle still in hand. The alien followed without a word, their movements slow but steady. His outpost wasn't much, just a few metal structures connected by narrow tunnels. He led the stranger inside to the main room, which served as his workshop, kitchen, and everything else. "Sit," he said, pointing to an old chair. The alien obeyed. Now that they were inside, Rion could study them better. The armor was advanced, definitely military grade, with strange glowing marks that pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Whoever they weren't a simple traveler. He set down his rifle, but kept it close. "I don't know if you understand me," he said, "but if you do, I need to know what you're doing here." Still nothing. The alien reached toward their helmet, fingers pressing against the side. For a moment, Rion thought they were activating some weapon, and his hand jumped back to the rifle. But instead, with a quiet hiss, the helmet detached. Rion's breath caught. Underneath was a face he didn't expect. Her features were unlike any alien he had seen. Soft lines, delicate and almost human-like, but with a strange glow to her pale skin. Her hair, silver white, framed her face in a way that shimmered in the dim light of the outpost. Her eyes bright, almost luminous, locked onto his. He didn't speak. He couldn't. He had seen many species, but none like her. Then she spoke. Her voice was clear, soft, and accented in a way he couldn't place. You, she said slowly, as if testing the word. Then her expression shifted, shock flashing across her face. You are not supposed to exist. Rian blinked. He didn't understand. Not supposed to exist. What did that mean? Before he could ask, she looked away, as if collecting herself, her glowing eyes narrowing like she was processing 1,000 thoughts at once. Rian lowered his rifle completely now, but his mind was racing. Who was she? Why did she look almost human? And what did she mean by that? One thing was certain: his quiet, lonely life on this dead moon had just changed forever. The alien woman sat quietly in the metal chair, her silver white hair falling over her shoulders. Her strange, glowing eyes studied the room like she was mapping every detail. Her helmet rested on the table between them, its surface still faintly steaming from the crash. Rian leaned back in his chair, trying to calm his thoughts. You speak my language, he said finally. She tilted her head slightly, almost like she didn't fully understand. Then she nodded once. Good, Rian said, though his voice came out more nervous than he wanted. Now tell me, who are you, and why were you in that pod? The woman didn't answer. Instead, she placed her hands together on her lap and kept her gaze locked on him. It wasn't an angry stare, but it was sharp, like she was trying to read him as much as he was trying to read her. Rian sighed. Right? Not much of a talker. Huh? She blinked slowly, as if weighing his words. Then she spoke. Mira, she said. He straightened a little. Mira, that your name? She nodded again. All right, Mira. He leaned forward. I'm Rian. You crashed near my outpost. That makes you my problem now. Mira's glowing eyes shifted to the rifle resting near his hand. She tilted her head again, studying it. Primitive, she said quietly. Rian raised an eyebrow. Excuse me, your weapon, she said. Her voice was soft but carried a strange confidence. Old design, crude. Rian almost laughed. Yeah, well, forgive me for not having top-class alien tech lying around. Some of us live simple lives. Her expression didn't change. She looked back around the room, as if trying to understand the place. Rian could tell she was confused by how little he had: bare walls, patched-up equipment, and a few crates of salvage parts. You are human, she said at last. It wasn't a question. Yes. Rian said cautiously, and so are you? Or, close enough. Mira's eyes narrowed. No, not human. Rian frowned. Could have fooled me. She shook her head slowly, as if the thought of being compared to him offended her. Then she said something that made his skin crawl. Humans are gone. Long ago. Rian stared at her. What are you talking about? She looked at him with something between pity and disbelief. The last records, your kind was destroyed, erased, many centuries. Rian leaned back in his chair. He wanted to laugh at how absurd it sounded. Well, seems like your records are wrong. I'm living proof of that. She studied him again, like she wasn't sure what to make of him. Impossible, she whispered, almost to herself. Yeah, well, Rian said, forcing a shrug. I've been called impossible before. Guess I'm good at it. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence stretched, filled only by the soft hum of the outpost's power core. Finally, Rian stood. All right, you're injured. Let me patch you up before you pass out on my floor. Mira tensed slightly as he approached, her hand moving toward her armor. Relax, Rian said, holding up his hands. If I wanted to hurt you, I'd have done it already. She didn't relax, but she didn't stop him either. He fetched his small medical kit and crouched beside her. The armor was burned in several places, and when he carefully touched one of the plates, she winced but didn't pull away. Underneath, he could see faint traces of blood, or something like blood, dark and slightly glowing. Great, he muttered. You're bleeding glowing stuff. That's new. She ignored the comment, her eyes watching his every move. You're lucky. Rian said as he carefully cleaned one of the wounds. This crash should have killed you. I did not die so easily, she said. Clearly, he replied. As he worked, he noticed her watching his hands closely, as if trying to understand his technique. It was strange for someone with armor that advanced. Why did she seem so curious about his simple tools? You live alone, she said suddenly. The question caught him off guard. Yeah, easier that way. No tribe, no ship, no allies. Didn't know I needed any. She tilted her head again. Strange. Rian finished wrapping one of her wounds and sat back. Strange? You're the one who just dropped out of the sky in an alien escape pod. Don't start judging me. For the first time, he thought he saw the faintest trace of a smile tug at the corner of her lips. It wasn't much, but it was there. Before Rian could say more, a sharp alarm echoed through the outpost. His heart jumped. That alarm only meant one thing: something had entered the moon's atmosphere. Rian bolted to the console and checked the scanner. 3 ships, small, fast, and heading straight for his coordinates. Damn, he muttered. Mira stood immediately, her expression darkening. They followed. Rian turned to her. They? Who's they? She grabbed her helmet and locked it back into place with a hiss. Hunters. She said. Hunters. They come for me. Rian's stomach sank. Wonderful. And you? Brought them right to my front door. She looked at him sharply. Leave, now. You will die if you stay. Rian scoffed. Leave. This is my home. I'm not running because of your mess. You cannot fight them, she said firmly. Watch me, Rian replied, grabbing his rifle. Mira stared at him for a moment, then gave a short nod. Then we fight together. Rian blinked. Together? I thought you just told me I'd die. You still might, she said. But better not alone. He didn't know if that was supposed to be comforting, but he appreciated the sentiment. The ships were getting closer. He could hear the faint rumble of their engines through the ground. Rian loaded his rifle and took a deep breath. He had no idea who these hunters were, but if they were coming for Mira, they were probably a lot more dangerous than the usual scavengers he dealt with. Mira stepped beside him, her armor plates glowing faintly as her helmet fully activated. She suddenly looked every bit like the soldier she clearly was: calm, focused, ready for a fight. Rian glanced at her. You sure you're up for this? You just survived a crash. I will fight, she said simply. Good, Rian said, gripping his rifle tighter. Then let's give them a welcome they won't forget. The first ship landed outside with a heavy thud, shaking the walls of the outpost. Whatever quiet life Rian had before was gone. Now, it was survival. The ground shook again as another ship landed. Dust and loose metal rained down from the ceiling of Rian's outpost. He glanced at the scanner. 3 ships, all parked within a few hundred meters of his shelter. Mira stood at the entrance, still as stone, her glowing armor pulsing faintly. Rian could tell she was listening, reading every sound outside like she had done this 100 times before. Hunters, she said in a low voice. Rian moved next to her, gripping his rifle. You keep saying that. What kind of hunters? Bounty hunters? Mira didn't answer right away. She turned her head slightly toward him. Worse. They do not come for credits. They come to erase. Rian's grip tightened. Erase? Erase who? You? Me? She said. And now, you. He swallowed. Great. I really am part of this mess now. Outside, the sound of boots hitting the rocky ground grew louder. They weren't rushing in. They were surrounding the outpost. Stay here, Rian said. Mira looked at him like he had just said something ridiculous. I did not hide, she replied, her voice sharp. Not asking you to hide, Rian said. But if they want you, I need them to focus on me first. I know this terrain. I can lead them away. Mira shook her head. You will die if you go. Alone. There are many, and if we both sit here waiting, we die anyway, Rian countered. She didn't argue further, but her glowing eyes narrowed behind the helmet visor. The first sound of metal scraping against the outer walls broke the silence. They were here. Rian quickly checked his rifle, the weight of the old weapon oddly comforting. If you've got any fancy alien tricks, now's the time to share. Mira raised her right arm, and a section of her armor shifted with a mechanical hum. A thin, glowing blade extended from her wrist like a beam of concentrated light. Rian stared. Well, that's fancy enough. Suddenly, the front door shuddered. They come, Mira said. No kidding. Rian muttered. The door exploded inward with a burst of force. Pieces of metal flew across the room. Rian ducked behind a crate as Mira stood her ground. 3 figures entered, tall, armored, and completely covered from head to toe. Their armor was dark red with sharp, jagged designs, their helmets shaped like predatory beasts. They moved like professionals, fanning out immediately. Rian's heart pounded. He hadn't seen armor like that before. Whoever these hunters were, they weren't amateurs. The one in the center spoke in a harsh, guttural language that Rian couldn't understand. But Mira did. She stepped forward and replied in the same language, her tone defiant. The leader tilted his head as if amused, then barked another command suddenly. The 2 flanking hunters aimed their weapons at her. Guess talking didn't work. Rian muttered and fired his rifle. The shot hit one of them square in the chest. The hunter staggered but didn't fall. Of course, Rian groaned. Nothing's ever easy. The room erupted in chaos. The hunters opened fire, glowing projectiles tearing through the walls. Rian dove behind another crate, narrowly avoiding a blast that scorched the ground where he had been. Mira moved like lightning. She lunged at the closest hunter, her glowing blade cutting through his weapon with a hiss of energy. She spun, slashing across his armor, sparks flying. The hunter collapsed. Remind me not to make you mad, Rian said under his breath, taking another shot at the second one. The remaining 2 hunters closed in. Rian kept firing, but their armor took most of the damage. He realized quickly that his rifle wasn't going to cut it. Mira, he shouted. Any chance you've got more of those glowing knives? She didn't answer. She was already locked in combat with the second hunter, their weapons clashing in a blur of light and metal. The leader, larger than the others, moved toward Rian. His weapon unfolded into a long, menacing spear that crackled with energy. Oh, come on. Rian groaned. The hunter swung. Rian barely rolled out of the way, the spear smashing into the floor with a deafening crack. Rian scrambled toward one of his salvage crates. He yanked it open and grabbed a small mining charge, a crude explosive he used to break apart rocks. It wasn't meant for combat, but right now, he didn't care. He armed the charge and tossed it at the hunter. The explosion sent the leader stumbling back, his armor smoking. It didn't kill him, but it bought Rian a few precious seconds. Rian. Mira called out. He turned to see her standing over the second fallen hunter. She tossed him one of their drop weapons, a compact alien rifle. Use this, she said. Rian caught it awkwardly. Thanks for the upgrade. The leader roared, charging at them again. Rian didn't hesitate. He pulled the trigger. The alien rifle spat out a stream of glowing projectiles that hit much harder than his old weapon. The leader staggered under the barrage, his armor cracking. Mira moved in for the kill. With a precise strike, her glowing blade pierced the gaps in his armor. The hunter let out a strangled growl before collapsing to the floor. The sudden silence was deafening. Rian's hand shook slightly as he lowered the alien rifle. He exhaled. Hard, please tell me that's all of them. Mira shook her head. No, scouts only. More will come. Rian stared at her. Scouts? These guys were scouts. You've got to be kidding me. She turned toward the door, her armor dimming slightly. We cannot stay. They will return in greater numbers. Rian wiped sweat from his forehead. And where exactly do you suggest we go? This is my only shelter. She glanced back at him. Then we take their ship. He blinked. I'm sorry. What? She pointed toward the door. Their landing craft, small, but it will carry us off this moon. Rian wanted to argue, but he knew she was right. If more of those things were coming, staying here meant death. He reloaded the alien rifle and nodded. Fine. But after this, you're explaining everything. No more half answers. Mira didn't reply. She simply walked toward the wrecked doorway, glowing blade still in hand. Rian followed, his heart still pounding. He had no idea where this was going, but one thing was clear: his quiet life was gone, and survival now depended on trusting this mysterious alien who claimed humans weren't supposed to exist. And for some reason, that terrified him even more than the hunters. The air outside the outpost was heavy with the smell of scorched metal and burning fuel. Rian stepped carefully over the fallen hunters, his new alien rifle held tight in his hands. He had fought scavengers before, but these enemies were different, faster, stronger, better equipped. He still couldn't believe they were only scouts. Mira moved ahead of him with precise, calculated steps. Her armor was battered from the crash and the fight, but she still carried herself like a trained soldier. Her glowing blade stayed extended as she scanned the horizon for more threats. "Are you sure their ship still works?" Rian asked as he followed her. "Yes," Mira said without looking back. It landed intact. They would not destroy their only way out. Rian glanced at the 3 smoking vessels nearby. "You can tell which one belongs to them." She pointed at the one in the center. It was small, sharp in design, and painted with the same jagged red marks as the hunter's armor. Its ramp was still down. "That one," she said. "Great," Rian muttered. "Looks cozy." They moved quickly, stepping over the rocky terrain toward the craft. The ground still vibrated faintly from the landing, and the silence between them was broken only by the crunch of their boots against the dust. When they reached the ship, Mira stopped at the entrance and crouched low, studying the controls near the ramp. Her armored fingers danced over the glowing symbols, pressing several in sequence. "What are you doing?" Rian asked. "Checking for traps," Mira replied. "Hunters do not leave their ship unguarded." "Good to know," Rian said, staying a few steps back. She finished whatever she was doing and stood. "Safe, for now." They stepped inside. The interior was dim, lit only by faint red lights along the walls. It smelled of oil and some strange chemical Rian couldn't identify. The floor and walls were lined with strange carvings that looked decorative at first glance, but he suspected they were warnings or symbols of the hunter's clan. Rian wrinkled his nose. "Feels like we just walked into a predator's den." "That is what it is," Mira said simply. She moved toward the cockpit without hesitation, and Rian followed. The controls were alien, full of glowing panels and twisting levers that meant nothing to him. Mira sat in the pilot's chair and began pressing buttons with practiced ease. "You know how to fly this thing?" Rian asked, surprised. "I know enough," she replied. "Their ships are based on older designs. My people studied them." "Your people," Rian said, leaning against the doorway. "You still haven't told me who that is, or why these hunters want you dead." Mira paused, her hand hovering over the controls. For the first time since they met, she looked unsure. "You are human," she said quietly, almost like she was testing the words again. "Last I checked," Rian said. "Though you keep acting like that's supposed to shock me." She turned to face him. Even through the helmet, he could feel her sharp gaze. "Do you know how long it has been since humans were believed?" "Destroyed." Rian frowned. "Destroyed. Humans are all over the colonies. I trade with them." "I know," Mira interrupted firmly. "Not like you. Not from Earth." Rian blinked. "Earth? What does Earth have to do with this?" Mira stood, walking toward him slowly. "Because that is where my people came from too. Long ago." Rian's mind stuttered. "Wait, are you saying you're human?" "Not like you," she said again. "My ancestors left Earth before its fall. They became something else, stronger, different. We call ourselves the Vera. We are not the same as the ones who stayed behind." Rian stared at her, his thoughts racing. "You're telling me humans didn't just spread to colonies. They've evolved, turned into you?" She nodded. "Yes, but we believe those who stayed were wiped out, erased in the Great Cleansing." Rian felt a chill run down his spine. "Cleansing? By who?" "The same ones who hunt me now," Mira said. Rian tightened his grip on the rifle. "So these hunters, they're the ones who destroyed Earth?" "Yes," she said. "They're called the Drakkar. They see humans as dangerous, unpredictable. They tried to remove your kind from the galaxy." Rian's chest felt tight. He had heard stories of Earth's fall, but no one knew the full truth. Most people treated it like a distant myth, a tragedy buried in history. But now, here was this stranger claiming to know exactly what happened, and That the ones who destroyed it were after her too. Why you? Rian asked finally. Mira hesitated. Because I carry something they fear. What? She didn't answer. Instead, she turned back to the controls and began powering up the ship. The engines hummed softly, and the vessel lifted slightly off the ground. Mira, Rian said, stepping closer. If I'm risking my life for you, I deserve to know what I'm risking it for. She kept her focus on the controls, but her voice softened. It is not just me they fear. It is what I know. The Drakkar want to erase all traces of your kind. But I discovered something, proof that humans were not truly destroyed. Proof that others like you survived. Rian froze. Others like me, he said slowly. Yes, Mira said, glancing at him briefly. Scattered, hidden, the Drakkar cannot allow them to rise again. That is why they hunt. Rian didn't know what to say. He had always thought of himself as insignificant, a lonely salvager scraping by on a forgotten moon. But now, this stranger was telling him that his existence alone was a threat to a powerful enemy. The thought made his stomach churn. Before he could respond, a sharp alarm blared through the ship. Mira's hands flew across the controls. They come, she said. Rian rushed to the viewport. In the distance, dark shapes were descending from the sky, more hunter ships, larger this time. How many? He asked. Enough to burn this moon to dust, Mira replied. Then we need to leave. Now, Rian said. The ship's engines roared louder as Mira pulled the controls. Hold on. The vessel lifted fully off the ground, the landing ramp ceiling shut. Through the viewport, Rian saw the other ships changing direction, locking onto them. They won't just let us fly away, Rian said. I know, Mira replied. Do you have weapons on this thing? Yes, Mira said, her voice steady. But you will need to use them. Rian blinked. Wait, me? She glanced at him. You wanted answers. Now fight for them. The hunter ships closed in, their weapons glowing. Rian felt his pulse racing as Mira pointed to a seat beside her. Take the gunner's controls, aim true, or we die. Rian slid into the chair, gripping the controls with shaky hands. He had no idea how to use alien ship weapons. But right now, he didn't have a choice. The Drakkar were coming. In this time, there would be no easy escape. The ship rattled as Mira pushed it hard through the thin atmosphere of the moon. The controls under her hands glowed faintly, responding to every movement with a strange, smooth precision. Rian gripped the gunner's controls beside her, his palms sweaty. He had flown small salvage shuttles before, but this was different. This ship felt alive, like it was built for one purpose: hunting. More ships are coming, Mira said. Her voice calm despite the alarms blaring around them. Rian squinted through the viewport. Several dark, jagged silhouettes cut across the sky, their engines glowing red as they dove after them. They were faster than he expected. Great, Rian muttered. And I thought one fight was enough for today. Mira ignored his comment. They will not stop. They will chase until we are dead or captured. Not exactly comforting, Rian said, adjusting his grip on the strange weapon controls. Tell me this ship has some decent firepower. It does, Mira replied. But you must aim. The targeting is manual. Manual? You mean I actually have to hit them myself? Yes, Rian groaned. Perfect. No pressure at all. The first volley came from behind. Bright red plasma streaks zipped past their hull, one of them grazing the side of the ship with a sizzling sound. The impact shook the vessel violently. Shields? Rian asked quickly. Minimal, Mira said. This is a hunter craft. It was not meant for defense. Then what was it meant for? Killing. Rian didn't like that answer. Another blast rocked the ship. Mira swerved sharply, throwing Rian against his seat. His vision blurred for a moment as the ship spun out of the line of fire. Now, Mira shouted, shoot them. Rian blinked. Rapidly, regaining focus, he grabbed the gunner's sticks and aimed at the nearest hunter ship. A targeting reticle appeared on the small screen in front of him. He fired. The ship's cannons roared, sending bright blue projectiles into space. Most of them missed, but one clipped the wing of the nearest hunter vessel. It wobbled slightly, but kept chasing. Good, Mira said. Again, Rian tried to steady his breathing. I'm more of a salvage guy than a gunner, you know. Learn. Quickly, Mira replied, or we die. The hunter ships spread out, 3 of them flanking their sides while to stay behind. They fired in coordinated bursts, forcing Mira to weave between their shots. The ship shook violently with every near miss. Rion gritted his teeth and fired again. This time his shots landed squarely on one of the flanking ships. Its engine exploded in a burst of fire, sending debris spiraling into space. One down, Rion yelled. For remain, Mira said coldly. The others were closing in fast. Mira suddenly dove the ship hard toward the surface of the moon. Rion's stomach lurched as they skimmed just above the rocky ground, weaving between jagged cliffs and massive craters. Are you trying to kill us? Rion shouted. They cannot fire freely this low, Mira said. If they miss, they will crash. Rion didn't find that comforting either, but he had to admit she was right. The hunter ships struggled to follow, their fire becoming more scattered. Hold them steady, Mira said. Rion adjusted his aim and fired at another pursuer. His shots ripped through its wing. The ship spun out of control and slammed into a cliffside, erupting into a ball of fire. To down, Rion called out, feeling a rush of adrenaline. Good, Mira said. But more are coming. Rion glanced at the scanner. Several new blips appeared. Reinforcements. Oh, you've got to be kidding me, he muttered. How many of these guys are out here? Enough to erase us, Mira said. Yeah, you keep saying things like that, and it's not helping. Mira didn't respond. Her focus stayed locked on the controls as she pulled the ship sharply upward. They shot out of the moon's atmosphere, the dull gray sky giving way to the endless black of space. The stars stretched around them, but there was no time to appreciate the view. More hunter ships warped into view ahead of them, cutting off their escape route. Rion's hands tightened on the controls. They're blocking us. Mira's glowing eyes flicked between the enemies and her instruments. Then we break through. She pushed the ship's engines to their limits. The vessel roared forward, shaking violently as the hunters opened fire from every direction. Rion shot back, destroying one of the blocking ships with a precise hit to its cockpit. 3 down. Another shot hit them, and alarms blared as smoke filled part of the cabin. Not good, Rion said, coughing. What did they hit? Engine stabilizers, Mira said quickly. We are losing speed. Fantastic, Rion said. Firing at another hunter. Any good news? None. Mira said, figures. The hunters tightened their formation. Rion kept firing, but there were too many. For everyone he damaged, to more closed in. Suddenly, Mira slammed her hand on a glowing control. A compartment above them opened, and strange metallic shards floated into the air around their ship. What's that? Rion asked. Countermeasures, Mira replied. The shards shot outward, scattering in every direction. When the hunters fired again, several of the plasma bolts struck the shards instead of the ship. They exploded with blinding flashes, disrupting the hunters' aim. That's actually clever, Rion said. Do not waste it, Mira said. Shoot now. Rion didn't hesitate. He locked onto 2 of the disoriented hunters and fired, destroying them in quick succession. That's 5, he shouted. But the celebration didn't last. The largest hunter ship yet appeared on the scanner, approaching fast. That doesn't look good, Rion said. It is not, Mira agreed. The massive ship dwarfed theirs, its weapons glowing brighter than anything they had seen so far. Let me guess, Rion said nervously. That's their boss, their commander, Mira confirmed. If we do not escape now, we die. Rion stared at the massive vessel. Escape where? We're surrounded. Mira's hands moved rapidly across the controls. There's one chance, but it is dangerous. Define dangerous, Rion said. She looked at him briefly. We jumped to deep space. Blind. Rion blinked. Blind as in no destination, no coordinates? Yes. Mira said, better than staying here. Rion hesitated. Everything in him screamed that it was a bad idea, but staying meant certain. Death do it, he said. Mira nodded and pulled a final lever. The ship shuddered violently as the stars outside blurred, and the hunters vanished from sight. The last thing Rian felt was the crushing force of the jump before everything went black. His head throbbed, his ears rang, and for a moment he couldn't tell if he was alive or dead. The hum of the ship's engines and the faint vibration beneath his seat told him they had survived. But just barely. He blinked several times, his vision slowly clearing. The cabin was dim and filled with the smell of burnt wiring. Sparks flickered from one of the panels near the ceiling. Still breathing, Mira's voice said calmly. Rian turned his head. She sat at the controls, her armor dimmed but still glowing faintly. Her helmet was off now. Resting beside her seat, her silver-white hair fell across her face, but she didn't seem tired. You actually did it, Rian said, his throat dry. Mira didn't look at him. We jumped, she said. We are alive. For now. For now. Rian repeated with a groan as he sat up. Where exactly are we? Mira glanced at the display in front of her. Deep space. No charts. No known star systems nearby. Rian rubbed his forehead. So we're just floating in nowhere? Correct. Wonderful, Rian muttered. He looked out the viewport. Endless black stretched in every direction, broken only by distant stars. No planets, no stations, no signs of life. It felt like they had been swallowed by the void. So, Rian said after a long pause, now what? We just sit here and hope those hunters get bored. They will not get bored. Mira said flatly. They will search. They will not stop, right? Rian said, rubbing his face. Then maybe tell me what's really going on before they catch us again. Mira's glowing eyes flicked toward him. I already told you. No, Rian said firmly. You gave me bits and pieces. Enough to keep me from throwing you out of my outpost. But I nearly died back there. I think I deserve the whole truth. She studied him silently, as if deciding whether or not to tell him. Finally, she said, you are not ready for the whole truth. Rian laughed bitterly. Not ready, Mira. I live on a dead moon. I just fought off alien bounty hunters. I think I can handle some bad news. Her gaze softened slightly. If I tell you everything, your life will change forever. You cannot return to what you were. Rian leaned back in his seat. Pretty sure that ship sailed when your friends in red armor tried to vaporize me. She tilted her head. Perhaps. The ship beeped softly. Mira glanced at the display. Hull damage. Shields depleted. We need repairs before another fight. Repairs, Rian said, looking round the scorched cabin. With what? We're stuck in the middle of nowhere. There's a relay station nearby, Mira said. Rian frowned. Nearby? I thought you said we were in uncharted space. Her fingers moved across the controls, and a small holographic projection appeared. A faint blip pulsed in the distance. It is not human, Mira said. It belongs to my people. A listening post, if it still stands. We can repair and resupply. Rian crossed his arms. And I'm guessing your people won't be thrilled to see me either. Mira didn't answer. Great. Rian muttered. First hunters, now angry alien relatives. They are not angry, Mira said. But they will not trust you. Yeah, I'm used to that. She turned back to the controls. Then stay close to me. They will not harm you while you are under my protection. Rian gave a humorless laugh, comforting. The ship jolted slightly as Mira adjusted their course. Tell me something, Rian said after a moment. Why are you risking all of this, if these Drakkar are as dangerous as you say? Why not just give them what they want and run? Mira's expression hardened. Because if they find what I know, they will finish what they started. They will erase everything. Rian narrowed his eyes. Everything like humans, she nodded. And anyone who carries their legacy, including my people. Rian leaned forward. You keep saying you know something. What is it? Some secret weapon, a hidden fleet. What's so important they'd chase you across the galaxy? Mira didn't look at him. A name, she said softly. Rian blinked. A name. She finally turned her gaze toward him. The name of the one who started it all. The one who betrayed your kind to the Drakkar. The one who made your destruction possible. Rian felt his stomach twist. You're saying humans didn't just fall. Someone sold them out. Yes, Mira said. And that name is hidden in places the Drakkar cannot reach. But I found it. They want me silenced before I reveal it. Rian slumped back in his chair. So let me get this straight. You've got a name that could explain why my entire species got wiped out. And now those red armored nightmares want you dead so no one ever finds out. Correct. Why do I keep getting dragged into this? Because, Mira said, her voice quiet but firm. You are proof they failed. They erased Earth. They destroyed your people. But you survived. You are the last truth they cannot erase. Rian stared at her, unable to speak. He had never thought of himself as important. He was just a man living on the edge of nowhere, scavenging junk to stay alive. Now this woman was telling him he mattered more than he could imagine. Before he could answer, the ship's console beeped again. Mira tapped a button, and a faint transmission filled the cabin. It was static at first, but then a distorted voice spoke in a language Rian didn't understand. Mira's face tightened. What is it? Rian asked. She didn't answer immediately. The relay is still active, she said finally. But it is not empty. Someone is there. Someone. Rian said, friend or enemy? We will find out, Mira said. The ship's engines hummed louder as they approached the signal. Rian's heart pounded. He didn't know what waited for them at that station. Help, betrayal, or something worse. But one thing was clear. They weren't alone anymore. The ship floated through the endless dark until a faint shape appeared ahead. It was small, barely visible against the stars. A lonely station, half hidden by the shadow of a dead asteroid. That's it? Rian asked, leaning forward in his seat. Yes, Mira said. The relay station. It didn't look like much. Just a cluster of metal structures connected by thin bridges, glowing weakly with fading power. It reminded Rian of an abandoned outpost, the kind scavengers like him strip for parts. Doesn't look alive to me, he muttered. It is active, Mira said, adjusting the ship's controls. Someone sent that transmission. Rian frowned. And you don't know who? Mira shook her head. No, but they are using old Vera codes. Either one of my people or someone who learned how to sound like them. That's not exactly comforting, Rian said. She didn't respond. Her focus stayed on docking the ship. The vessel jolted as the clamps connected, locking them into place. Stay close, she said, standing and reattaching her helmet. Not like I was planning a walk, Rian muttered, grabbing the alien rifle. The airlock hissed open. A wave of cold air hit them as they stepped inside the station. The place was quiet, too quiet. The lights flickered weakly, and the sound of their boots echoed across the metal floor. Rian's gut told him something was wrong. Not getting a friendly vibe here, he said quietly. Be ready, Mira replied. They moved through narrow corridors, passing broken panels and cracked walls. The station looked old, like it hadn't been maintained in years. Then Rian saw movement. A figure stepped out from the shadows ahead. It was a man, or at least, mostly. He wore Vera armor similar to Mira's, but older and more battered. His face was partially covered by a cracked mask, his silver-white hair streaked with black. His glowing eyes fixed on Mira. Mira, the man said, his voice rough. She froze. Kale, she replied. Rian glanced between them. You to know each other. Kale stepped closer, lowering his weapon. I thought you were dead. You? Hoped I was dead, Mira said sharply. Kale tilted his head. You always were clever. Escaping them? Impressive. Rian raised his rifle slightly. Who's this guy? Mira didn't look at him. Kale, my commander. Once, Rian didn't like the sound of that. Kale ignored Rian entirely. You shouldn't have come here, Mira. They will follow you. They already followed me, she said. And they will come for you too. They know what you did. Kale didn't flinch. You mean what we did. You were part of it once. Rian stepped forward. Okay, someone wants to explain what's going on before I lose my mind. Mira turned to him, her voice heavy. This is the man who gave the Dracker the name. The one who betrayed your kind. Rian froze. He stared at Kale, his grip tightening on the rifle. You? Rian said. You sold out humans? You're the reason Earth is gone. Kale didn't deny it. He just looked at Rian with calm, cold eyes. Earth was already doomed. I only ensured. The Vera survived. Hard choices must be made. Hard choices, Rian snapped. You wiped out billions. Kel's gaze stayed steady. Survival always has a price. Rian took a step forward, but Mira raised a hand, stopping him. Why? She demanded. Why not tell him? Why come here? Kel sighed. Because the Drakkar are coming, and none of us will survive them alone. You found the name. Good. But you don't understand what it means. Mira narrowed her eyes. Then tell me. Kel stepped closer until he was only a few feet away. The name belongs to one of your kind. A human. Someone who worked with the Drakkar to destroy Earth. Someone still alive. Rian felt like the floor dropped beneath him. Alive? You're saying the person who betrayed us is still out there? Kel nodded. Yes. And the Drakkar are hunting them too. Not just you. Rian's thoughts spun. All this time, he thought Earth's fall had been some distant tragedy lost to history. Now he knew it was betrayal by one of their own. Who is it? Rian demanded. Kel looked at him carefully. You will not like the answer. I don't care, Rian snapped. Say it. Kel leaned forward, lowering his voice. The one who betrayed you was not a soldier, not a leader. It was someone sent to make peace. An ambassador, a human chosen to speak for your people, and they chose survival over all of you. Rian's chest tightened. You're saying Earth's fall happened because of one person, one decision, Kel corrected. But one decision can destroy a world. Before Rian could respond, alarms blared through the station. Mira turned sharply toward the nearest panel. Drakkar ships. They found us. Kel drew his weapon. Then we finish this conversation later. For now, we fight. Rian groaned. Of course, more fighting. Mira looked at him. This is not just survival anymore, if we live. You will know everything. Rian gripped his rifle tightly. His fear was still there, but it was buried under something else. Anger. For Earth. For everyone who died. Fine, he said. Let's make them pay. The sound of metal claws scraping against the outer walls echoed through the station. The hunters were here. Mira's glowing eyes met his. Stay close. Rian nodded. The lights flickered. And the first door burst open. The fight for the truth had begun.